right, it is Thursday, June 29th. I am James Jacoby. Welcome to the Ascend B2B Sales Podcast. And today we're talking about value propositions, how to have an irresistible value proposition that wins you clients. It's juicy, it's important. You got to know what you're doing. We'll start right after this. All right, welcome to the show, guys. If this is your first time here, say hello, please. Leave a comment. Would love to hear from you. Today, we're talking about value propositions, and it's a simple conversation, but it's not, because here's the deal. If you have a strong value proposition, it should then help you gain clients. It should help you gain leads. It should help you convert traffic and attract people to your brand when they see your value proposition, or I'll call it another way, a positioning statement on your marketing. Wherever you show up, in person when they see you, if you're at a networking event, if you're at a trade show, if you're online, if you're wherever you're showing up to establish your brand. People will hear and see your value proposition. What is that? And how do you know if it's good? So we want to talk about that today, because if you don't have a strong value proposition, guys, it's going to be very, very difficult to have your audience know what it is that you do. And that's really what it's about. It's your value propositions should not necessarily talk about why your business is so awesome, which part of it should be, but it has to talk more about what does your product or service do? Like, what problem does it solve? What are the benefits and advantages to using your product or service? And really, what makes you better or different than anyone else? Like, if I looked at 10 companies just like yours, why is yours better than anyone else? Like, what should I know? And I was watching random insert here. We love Marvel in our family, so every Wednesday we watch a Marvel show with our kids, and we have fun with that. So one of the quotes that came off of last night that I remember was, Nick Fury asked this guy, "Hey, I know everything that I need to know about your thing, your situation, your people, whatever. But what should I ask you that I don't know about? What's the thing that I don't know that I should be asking you about?" So thinking about that, because I thought that was a really interesting question that we can use in business, is what should I ask you that I don't know? And what should I know about your company that I may not automatically assume or be clear on from what I've seen so far? So think about that. If someone goes to your website, or if someone goes to your online social media channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or they see you at a trade show with your banners or whatever, and I can get an idea of what you probably do, but you probably have one or two things that you really, 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 really want your customers to know about you, right? Like, is it your, your status? Is it some kind of achievement or factoid that really speaks volumes to your brand and what you've been able to achieve? Is it some killer outcome that you've been able to demonstrate you get over and over and over again? Is it some kind of advantage or benefit that you have that is just so different or important that you think your customer should know because they care about it? Like, those are things you got to ask yourself when you think about your value proposition. Okay. So here's some good news and some crazy news. Let's get this banner off the screen here. Bye bye. There we go. So if you're not alone, if you feel like you don't have a strong value proposition, because like 69% of B2B firms have established value propositions, meaning that 30% don't. That is insane. That's crazy. I hope you're part of the 69%. But guess what? If you're not, and you don't have an established value proposition, well, hey, let's start today. Let's take some information from today's podcast and build one, right? Because we have got to tell our story in a short, concise manner that helps our prospect or listener or user or your end buyer understand what it is that you do. What do you do? And why should I care? That's the gist of a value prop, right? Why should I care? Because when we, in past podcasts, I've talked about marketing, I've talked about messaging, I've talked about lead nurture, lead conversion, all that stuff. It all comes back really to this. It's what's the unique value proposition of the brand, and what are all the different messages that we need to create around that to communicate to our market that we're serving so that they know what we do, they know how we help, and they know why us versus anybody else. So those are the things that you need to be thinking about. With strong value propositions, you're going to get more conversion rates and more sales guys. With weak propositions, you're not, because your audience is confused. So one of the things that I like to talk about when I advise business owners, which we do a lot here at Ascend, we advise business owners and their teams on how to build a better go-to-market strategy with their business. What's the best piece of data that you could possibly get to build your business and to build your value proposition from? What's the best possible data you could get? It's not what's in your head. It's not even what you think is awesome. That actually doesn't mean anything. The best possible data you can get is market feedback, right? Customer or prospect feedback on their business, their industry, their pains and challenges and problems, their desired outcomes, and any of that is relevant and resonant to what you do. That is where we got to build the bridge. That is where we got to build and create a strong value proposition that reflects with them, that shows them that, hey, guess what, guys? We literally have a brand with a service or a product that can literally help, that is built literally and customized for you. Like, it is, we built this company because of you and the things that you're struggling with and the things that you want. Our company can help you get what you want and get your outcomes. And here's how we help. Here's how we address and solve these challenges in your business. We know what they are. Here's our secret sauce on how we fix those things and address them. And here's how we get the outcome. Like, that has got to be all there. And so it's a process, right? Like, if you haven't had conversations in the last week, I'll throw that out there, not 30 days or a month, same thing, or a couple months, but like week or in the last even few days. Like, if you haven't talked to people in the last 3 to 5 business days about their business, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, what do they really want, or what's top of mind for them, going into Q3 now, starting the second half of the year soon, then we gotta pick it up because and I talked about this with some technology companies. That's a big one, but man, technology changes all the time. Like you have constantly have to innovate and listen to what's going on in your market to make sure that your product or service is resonant. It's impactful. It's addressing the real time issues that are happening in their businesses. So, have you talked to people in your market lately in the last 3 to 5 business days about what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, what are things that they're trying, and what do they really want to see happen in the next 6 months? That data should either validate or hopefully strengthen your value proposition and or give you an opportunity to be like, whoa, our value proposition really is not that clear, or it's actually addressing one thing about maybe what we want to do in the market, but we're hearing other things coming up in our market that is more top of mind right now than maybe our one thing. Maybe we need to shift, or it's okay. You can have more than one value proposition if you have different services or different products, but maybe you need to shift your messaging a little bit and address what's going on in the market right now. So again, if you haven't worked on your value proposition in a while, now's a great time to take a pause for like a couple hours, get with your team, schedule a meeting, and work through this. Like, hey, here's our current value prop. This is what it's doing. And ask yourself this, is there any data that we have that suggests that we have the right value proposition? Like, does our marketing and sales data reflect correlation that we have a strong value proposition? Have we asked our customers or prospective clients what they think about our company or why they chose to work with us? Like, that is huge, especially when you start to work with new clients. One of the first things that we recommend you do, even in the first few weeks when you start working with a client, hey, thanks so much for signing up with us. We're so excited to serve you and help you grow. Why did you join up? I'm just curious, like, why did you sign up? Well, what was the thing that really made it a yes for you? Like, there's so many clues with that answer, guys, that help you know what is relevant in your value prop, in your brand, that people see, believe, listen, perceive, all those things that are really, really important to the positioning of your company. So let me know if that helps, and let me know if you guys have any thoughts on this topic, or if what are some other things you've tried with building a strong value proposition. But that's the thing right there is you really just want to think through what are the benefits of working with us. What's the impact, the impact or results that we're going to create with you if you work with us, and then why are we different? I remember when I used to work in my former corporate company, I was in the staffing business, and this was really keeping me up at night. Like this whole value proposition thing was really keeping me up because we wanted to grow quickly in a market, and we wanted to make an impact. And if you Googled staffing companies, in a city, like literally there's like over 100. There's tons. There's huge saturation. So when you talk to a prospective client, odds are they have already talked to several, if not dozens, of competitors. So the question I kept asking myself was, how in the world are we going to stand out? How in the world can we show someone really quickly that we're different, that we got something potentially better than what they're used to? And how can we make sure that even though we know that, which is where a lot of business owners and marketing and sales teams are challenged, is even though we know that, and it's not take out the bias. There's always bias, right? Take out the bias of your brand, because everyone, I mean, if you don't think you're awesome, then you maybe shouldn't be in business. But everyone thinks that they're pretty good or awesome at what they do, right? That's why you're in business. You believe strongly in what you do. Great. But take the bias out. Put that on the side and ask ourselves literally, like, how do we really know? How do we really know if we're better than our competition? Like, how can we prove that? Right? And so that's where the shifting for me went, and this is what I talk about a lot with my clients and anyone, any colleague, anyone in the industry, and you guys, like anyone that wants to have this conversation. But when we think about how do we really know for sure that we're different than our competitors, that makes us stand out, that our marketplace could somehow see without us telling them that we're different. How do we do that? That is Pandora's box. But what worked for us, and I'll leave this with you, is I started to think about what outcomes could we help our clients get that other competitors also aim to get or achieve with our clients. And then we start to ask questions around, okay, if we can get a certain outcome with a client, then well, how much? Let's think through all the different ways we can differentiate, right? Well, how much did it cost them? Like, what's our pricing versus a competitor's pricing? That's usually where people want to think that they're different. Don't compare yourself on price, guys. Like, beyond the fact that maybe you might be considering yourselves as like the Cadillac of your services, and maybe there's a Honda Civic that's just a much lower price, maybe. But let's think through really what are the other ways we can show differentiation than price, because price at the end of the day is not going to be too much of a hang up if you've done the right lead scoring, lead qualification up front. Price shouldn't be that big of an issue, if at all, on the back end when you're starting to close deals. It's the demonstration of value and belief that you can really achieve the outcomes that they want. That's the thing that your prospective buyers want to believe and know for sure to make that buying decision. So price is one thing, but it's way more than that, right? It's truly the, hey, do I really believe this person can solve our problems and help us get across the finish line? So we got to think through what are the other things then that we can measure as a competitive advantage that would help people see that we're better, that we're different, that we really are the right choice for our prospective clients. So how long does it take you to get outcomes for your clients? Could be one thing. Maybe it's a measurement of how long it takes you to deliver a specific outcome. Maybe it's how many outcomes you can deliver in a given amount of time. Maybe it's there's ancillary outcomes around your outcome that come with the outcome just by a byproduct of how you do it that maybe they don't know about, that they should know, right? So there's got to be some ways you can measure that, and I'm bringing this up because there's some powerful things here you could use then in your value proposition to show why you versus someone else. Now, you could dangle around fancy awards, or you could dangle around big companies that you work with or that are relevant to your audience. That could work. And on the flip side of that, I will say, because I've seen this a lot. I've had companies pitch me where they will dangle in front of me either personal brands or companies that are apparently big or famous or whatever, and I literally had no idea who they were talking about. So like that value prop was really, really weak because I have no idea the relevance of those personal brands and what that means to me. Even worse, I've had in some cases the seller kind of make me feel bad that I didn't know who those people were. And I'm like, don't make your prospect like feel bad for not knowing or like uneducated. Like that's not the way you want to do this, right? So if you want to name drop, if you want to use accolades that you think would help the positioning and credibility of your brand, just be careful. Like make sure that you are using companies or awards that you know for sure your customer would know, because if they don't know that, then those accolades and those name drops absolutely do nothing for you. It actually shows the opposite. It shows that you haven't really researched their business or their where they focus on, and it makes you look uneducated. So really be careful about that, because that could go two ways with that. Um, but yeah, so we talked about in this show today, market feedback is absolutely essential to building a strong value proposition. We talked about the structure of the value proposition and what it should look like. And ultimately, guys, even outside of this topic, the competitive advantage, what are the true things that make you different, that are undeniable, like you can data back them. And that's where I'm going to really challenge you and say I don't see most companies do this, which is a huge opportunity for most companies that listen to this, is what can you measure in the business on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that is somehow tied to getting outcomes for your clients, that if you were to use that data and compare it against other companies, other competitors that are trying to do the same thing as you, you could easily show that you're better, like undeniably better. That you're just more efficient, more effective, you're faster, you have more quality, whatever it is that shows that you have unparalleled value. That is the stuff we want to put in the value proposition, so that you can say that in a couple sentences to your listener, to your audience, to your prospect, and say, the only thing you got to know about us, sir, is this is our differentiation, how we're better than anyone else for working with someone like yourself. And we know your industry better than anyone. We know you want these outcomes, and this is how we get them. Like, if you can tell someone that in a few sentences in like 10 to 20 seconds, you got that thing dialed in, you should get a pretty strong response. You're either going to get, wow, that's impressive, and I want to learn more about your business because that sounds really cool. Or it's going to be like crickets, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great, man. And if that happens, then that should tell you right away that you missed somewhere on your value prop, because your value prop to the right person should land really well, and they should be extremely, excited, interested, give you some positive response. On the other hand, you may have a really strong value proposition, but if you're not using it to the right audience and you just say your value proposition to anybody, I see this happen too, especially at networking events. Your value proposition, remember, is not built for everybody. You can't target everybody in your company, in your business. It's made for a specific persona, which we've talked about in past podcasts. So, be aware of that too. Like, just because you don't get a favorable response with your networking, maybe doesn't mean you maybe have a bad value prop. You got to make sure that you're talking to the right persona first to begin with. And if you're not sure, then consider that, right? Make sure you're talking to the right people. And if you know you are for sure, then, weigh that heavily and see what the feedback is. But make sure you're talking to the right people, because you can have the best value prop in the world. Talking to the wrong audience, it doesn't matter. Like, they're just going to not be interested because it has no meaning to them. So, cool. So that's it for today, guys, on this podcast on value propositions. If you got any thoughts, comments, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. If you want to send your value proposition for some feedback, I'd love to give you some feedback on what you think is awesome with your value proposition. And again, it's Q3 next week. So now's a great time to take a pause spend an hour with your team on this. Make sure you're in lockstep and you're aligned with a really strong message and positioning statement for the next quarter, and then start making content and marketing and start putting this value prop out there. Get it in front of people and get it in front of the right people. Because if you do, it should increase your lead generation. It should increase your conversions, and you're going to see some more sales and more clients from this. So thanks so much. We'll see you next Tuesday. Actually, no, we're not going to see you next Tuesday because it's 4th of July. Pardon me on that. We'll see you a week from today on Thursday for the next podcast. We'll talk then. You all.